Can a person die surrounded by everyone without anyone knowing who he is? To depart this life in broad daylight, with a calm face, elegant clothes, and a body bearing no wound or mark, as if death had chosen him carefully to remain an eternal secret? On one of Australia's quiet beaches one morning in 1948 sat an unknown man whom no one knew, and who himself didn't seem to be waiting for anyone. Hours later, he was found dead in his seated position, smiling as if he knew a secret he didn't want to reveal. He carried no ID, no papers, nothing to indicate his name, just a mysterious body and a pocket containing a small scrap of paper with 2 words written in ancient Persian, meaning, "It is finished." But the story didn't end there. It began from that point. When passers-by approached the man, he seemed at first glance to be asleep. His calm demeanor and neat clothes led some to think he was just a tired visitor who had succumbed to a short nap on the beach. But when a woman leaned in to check his breathing, she realized the stillness enveloping him wasn't sleep. It was an eternal silence. The police arrived minutes later. They meticulously searched his pockets. They found no wallet, no identification card, no paper bearing his name. All he had was an unused train ticket, a bus ticket, a fancy cigarette case containing a different brand of cigarettes, a comb, a piece of gum, and some coins. Simple items that revealed nothing about their owner, yet they seemed placed with a strange care, as if he wanted to leave behind an intricate, unsolvable puzzle. The body was taken to the morgue, and there the great confusion began. His body showed no signs of violence or struggle. No wound, no bruise, no mark indicating a fight. Yet there was no clear cause of death. The doctors were baffled. The heart was healthy. The lungs were healthy. No traces of poison in his mouth or on his skin. It seemed as if he had simply been extinguished, like a candle snuffed out in a moment of quiet. But something in his face drew attention. His features weren't Australian, nor purely European. He was handsome, with a strong jaw and carefully styled hair, as if he cared about his details, even in his final moments. One investigator said, "It's as if he stepped out of a mysterious novel, not from real life." The next day, pictures of his face spread in the newspapers under the headline, "The Unknown Man of Somerton Beach." Calls flooded in from people claiming to have seen him before, but every lid faded into thin air. No one knew him, no one missed him. While the police were searching for any clue to his identity, they discovered a small brown suitcase left at the train station a day before the body was found. Inside the suitcase were clothes matching the man's size, but strangely, all the brand labels had been carefully removed from the garments, as if the owner wanted to sever every path that could lead back to him. In the pocket of one jacket, they found an orange thread unlike anything in the Australian market. The police traced it and discovered it was a type used only in Britain. And here the questions multiplied. Who was this man? Where did he come from? And why did he choose Somerton Beach to end his story? As days passed, nothing was learned about him. No one reported a missing person resembling him, and no message arrived requesting a search for him. With each new sunset, the mystery grew heavier. It seemed as if this man had emerged from nothingness, only to return to it. But one investigator noticed a small detail that would lead the story to a new turn, a detail inside a secret pocket no one had seen before. On a cold December night, the coroner was re-examining the body for the last time before burial. The faint light in the dissection room flickered over the rigid features of the man, the air carrying the smell of disinfectant, salt, and iron. And as the doctor inspected the suit pockets for the 10th time, he glimpsed something small in the lining of the inner pocket that hadn't been noticed before. He slowly extended his fingers and pulled out a delicate slip of paper, folded with extreme precision. It was a very small scrap, carefully cut from a book page. On the scrap, 2 words were written in ancient Persian. The doctor uttered them softly. Tamám Shud. What does it mean? An expert later translated it. It is finished. That discovery was enough to turn the case upside down. This was no longer just a mysterious death, but a hidden message from another world, or perhaps a farewell signature from a man who never wanted to be known. The police began searching for the origin of that scrap. After weeks of investigation, an officer managed to link it to a famous book of Persian poetry, the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam, translated into English. The edition from which that part was cut wasn't ordinary. It was a limited edition that was hard to find in Australia at the time. And here began a new phase of the mystery. A picture of the scrap was published in the newspapers, along with an appeal to the public. Does anyone possess a copy of this book? Days later, a man called the police, saying he had found a strange book on the back seat of his car. The door had been unlocked when he parked it on the beach, sometime close to the day the body was found. When the police received the book, it was indeed from the same edition. Its pages were carefully opened, and on the last page was a small cutout, exactly where the missing scrap belonged. But what made them fall silent for a long time wasn't just the scrap, but what was handwritten on the last page, a series of random, encoded letters like secret symbols or a spy code. WRGOABABD. LI. A long, meaningless string, yet it wasn't random. It was written in balanced, precise lines, as if its owner was hiding a message known only to him. The newspapers began talking about the Somerton mystery, as if it were a true spy story. Some said he was a secret agent from World War II, whose mission had ended and who was silenced forever. Others thought he was a heartbroken lover who ended his life in silence after a painful loss. The police, however, remained stuck between the two possibilities, unable to favor either. Despite all the investigations, the code remained an unsolved puzzle. They enlisted military code-breaking experts, but it didn't match any known system. Even the British intelligence agency, MI5, monitored the case quietly, without stating anything publicly. Just as the investigations were fading into oblivion, a new lead emerged when the police displayed the body to the public after temporary preservation. Then a young woman stood before the coffin, and as soon as she saw the man's face, she turned pale and trembled. She refused to speak, saying only, "No, I don't want to say anything." Then she quickly left the place. Who was that woman? And why did she seem panicked upon seeing the man's face? The officer accompanying her quietly noted her name, Jessica Thompson, and that name was the beginning of a new chapter in the story, a chapter that would lead to one of the most bizarre theories in Australian criminal history. After Jessica Thompson left the morgue, the echo of her footsteps lingered in the investigators' minds for a long time. This woman was different from any other witness. She wasn't curious or flustered, but afraid, a deep fear that didn't resemble the fear of someone who had seen a stranger's corpse, but rather the fear of someone who knew the truth and was trying to escape it. The next day, the police summoned her for questioning. She appeared calmly, wearing a simple dress, speaking in a composed voice, but her eyes said more than her words concealed. The investigator asked her, "Do you know this man?" She was silent for a moment, then said slowly, "No, I don't think so." But at that moment, the officer noticed her hands were trembling. During the investigation, she mentioned that she worked as a nurse and lived in a neighborhood close to where the body was found. Strangely, the police later discovered that one of her neighbors owned a copy of the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam from the exact same edition where the scrap was found. When the copy was shown to him, he confirmed it was his and that he had lent it to Jessica once. At that point, everything began to seem mysteriously connected. Did Jessica know the unknown man? Was there something between them? Or did the matter go beyond romance to secrets far greater than that? The investigators continued to follow the threads. One of them noticed that Jessica's son, named Robin, had a rare ear shape that perfectly matched the shape of the unknown man's ear, a rare genetic similarity. Furthermore, the boy's dental structure matched a unique oral condition observed in the man's corpse. These signs were close to genetic evidence, which wasn't as conclusive then as it is today, but they were enough to raise suspicion. Suspicions began to swirl around an unexpected possibility. that the unknown man might have been the child's father, and that Jessica was hiding this secret out of fear of scandal or something greater. But Jessica didn't utter a word. Whenever anyone tried to approach that theory, she would shut the door with polite finality. The years passed, and the mystery remained unchanged. The body was buried in an Adelaide cemetery under a simple headstone that read, "The Unknown Man," and despite the passage of time, fresh flowers would occasionally appear on his grave, no one knowing who placed them or when. In the 1980s, after decades of silence, a young researcher named Derek Abbott decided to reopen the case. He read all the old documents, becoming so fascinated with the case that he devoted his life to understanding who that man was. In a strange twist of fate, he later married Jessica Thompson's own daughter, initially unaware that his life would become entangled with Australia's most mysterious unsolved case. Abbott began collecting evidence anew, using modern science and DNA techniques that weren't available in the 1940s. And in 2022, after more than 70 years of mystery, researchers announced the results of the genetic analysis taken from the unknown man's hair. But the result was not what anyone expected. When the DNA tests began, hope was slim. After more than 70 years since the death, most of the natural DNA had degraded from the body's remains, leaving only strands of hair preserved from the initial analysis in the 1940s. Those strands, small and fragile, were all that remained of the man who had baffled an entire nation. A team of scientists, led by Derek Abbott, worked to extract the genetic code from them using the latest genetic analysis techniques. The process took many long months of attempts and repetition until the result finally appeared on the computer screen. The surprise was astounding. The DNA indicated that the man was not Australian, as previously thought, but was of European descent, more specifically from the United Kingdom. After comparing the data with global genealogical databases, a potential name emerged: Carl Webb, an electrical engineer from Melbourne who had disappeared in the same year the body was found. Carl Webb, an ordinary name for an ordinary man. But how did he end up as a well-dressed corpse on Somerton Beach? The researchers began piecing the picture together again. It was found that Carl had been living a troubled life in the late 1940s, suffering from problems with his wife, who had left him after severe disputes. The last trace of him was a short message he wrote to a relative, saying he needed some time alone to finish everything. Then he vanished. That mysterious phrase, "to finish everything," seemed to echo the words Tamám Shud found in his pocket. Was the man speaking symbolically about ending his life? Or did someone help him do it? But the mystery didn't completely dissipate. Even with a genetic identity confirmation, the old questions remained unanswered. Where did the Omar Khayyam book come from? Why were all the labels removed from his clothes? And who wrote the code on the last page? Although the identity seemed scientifically settled, many refused to believe the case ended there. Some details remained logically perplexing. One expert noted that the type of poison potentially used during that era was extremely rare and was sometimes used in intelligence programs. Others suggested the man's elegant appearance and mysterious behavior indicated he might have been more than just an ordinary engineer. As for Derek Abbott, who had dedicated his life to solving this man's mystery, he once stood before his grave and said, "We may have found his name, but we haven't found his story yet." Thus, the long search journey ostensibly ended, but it actually opened a new door for questioning. Was it a love tragedy that ended in noble silence, or an intelligence operation whose traces were carefully erased? And was the phrase Tamám Shud a farewell to the world, or a message no one has understood yet? Even after more than 70 years, Somerton Beach still carries the echo of that story. The waves pass over the same sand, and the sun rises over the same stone wall, as if remembering the man who sat there on the last dawn of his life. An unknown man who departed quietly, leaving the world with one question no one has answered. Who are we when no one knows us? And so ends the story of the unknown man on Somerton Beach. But has it truly ended? Perhaps not, because mystery does not die. It only changes its form. 70 years of searching, of unanswered questions, of souls captivated by the shadow of a man no one knew, yet who became part of the world's memory. We may believe his name was Carl Webb, and we may convince ourselves that science has closed the case, but something deep within us refuses to be settled. For within this mystery lies something deeper than identity and name. It is the question of humanity itself. Can we live a full life, then depart without our name being remembered, without our existence leaving a trace? Or is our existence only immortalized when we strive to understand others, even those whom no one knew? The story of the Somerton Man is not merely a mysterious incident. It is a silent mirror reflecting human fragility in the face of oblivion. It is a reminder that behind every unknown face there is a story, a dream, and a final decision we have yet to understand. And now it's your turn. In your opinion, who was the unknown man, truly? Was he a spy who chose silence, or a lover who decided to leave quietly? Share your thoughts in the comments because we want to hear your analysis. And if you believe this story deserves to be told, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming tailies. For here, where we narrate mystery calmly and search for truth between the lines. Every new mystery is the beginning of another chapter. Until we meet again in another story, perhaps more mysterious and perhaps closer to the truth than we imagine.